Hey, Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to the analysis of the free game update number 6 for the New Frontier Pass. Let's go ahead and just get started.
Hello Civ fans, welcome to the final, I can't believe we're saying that, free game update of the season for Sid Meier's Civilization 6. We're so thrilled to have taken this journey with you. Our community is absolutely vital to our development process, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Today we're going.
He said the final update of the season. I still maintain we'll see more updates for Civ 6. And again, it's kind of like a game theory thing. If you always say there's going to be more updates, you can only be wrong once.
Going to be announcing a few of the details of some of the balance changes you can expect in this update.
But first, for all of you True Start location fans, this update includes a True Start Mediterranean and a True Start huge map. We've also updated the AI to make better usage of naval units. This should raise the stakes for travel on the high seas and encourage you to make even more interesting choices around naval production and warfare.
Hey, by the way, this has changed. This guy, he's Karl! He's no longer a QA guy. He's the junior designer. Well played, Karl. Congratulations. That is actually a pretty impressive career move. To go from, because a lot of the times people talk about how, you go from you can get into QA and that can lead to a game, design or development role. And Karl has actually done it. He has done that thing, and that's actually exceedingly difficult. So well played, Karl.
We're excited to introduce 3 brand new units that every civilization will be able to train. The Line Infantry, the Men-at-Arms, and our most requested new unit by popular demand, we bring you the Trebuchet.
Hey, we got ourselves the Trebuchet, the Trebuchet. I'm super excited about the Man-at-Arms and the Line Infantry. The Infantry, I think the two sort of unit lines that I think are most important to get right in Civ are the Infantry and the Ranged Infantry. You always want to have a unit that's available and useful to you, and infantry kind of fills that role. So now that we have the Man-at-Arms, I presume the Man-at-Arms will come between the swordsman and the line infantry, or between the swordsman and the musketmen, and the musketmen will come between, and the line infantry will come between the musketmen and regular infantry. And presumably the trebuchet will come between the catapult and the bombard, which really does feel like an empty piece of the tech tree. I like the idea of there being a couple of eras between upgrading units, so it encourages diversity. The problem is that it just makes a lot of units feel awkward and really underpowered after one era.
These new free additions changed the pacing of units in some areas. We re-examined unit strengths across the board and made changes in
Okay, what was that? The Man-at-Arms has 50 combat strength. 45 base, which is 10 lower than the musketmen, but 10 higher, or 9 higher than the swordsman. The line infantry has 65 combat strength base, which is 10 higher than the musketmen. So I do think that these fall in between those. And the thing that people don't realize is that if I remember correctly, plus 10 combat strength is a 50% damage increase against a unit with the same combat strength. So if you have 60 combat strength and the enemy unit has 50, you do twice as much damage to it that it does to you. Or it might even be a greater delta than that. So plus 10 combat strength is huge. So the difference between swordsman and musketman at 20 combat strength is insane. Musketman could 2-shot swordsman, which was really, really tough to deal with.
Changes in several places. This helps the new units feel like appropriately weighty upgrades, but also smooths out some previous combat differences. And speaking of differences, the moment you've all been waiting for, tweaks to previously released civilizations. I had the incredible opportunity to help design some of these changes based on the feedback that you have all been sharing with us on various forums over the past year. And as many of you know, while I do have the privilege to work on Civ, I'm also a passionate fan of the game, so I am as excited as you are to see these updates.
Please note that
I will also say that Karl actually really went above and beyond in gathering feedback and data for for these things. Like he really got, like he was on people's discords, like content creator discords, reading what people were talking about. He watches the live streams to figure out what people are feeling about them. Like Karl has put in an absurd amount of time and energy into actually balancing these civs and helping design them. Just from a data collection point, I think even at some point a few months ago, he asked me to make him sort of like a, you know, I had been working on a tier list that I kind of have continuously in work, and he asked me if he could see like a pre-release version so that he could see what was my opinion on it and stuff like that. And so Karl has seriously put a ridiculous amount of work into this update, so I am really expecting some very, very cool changes. And I think that like his attention to detail and stuff like that makes him a credit to the Civ team. And also his passion for the game means that he's going to know, like he's actually a very good player, so he's going to know whether or not a bonus is actually like really too good or not good enough. So I'm confident that they'll get the numbers at least in the right ballpark, if not perfect.
All of these changes are available for free, but may apply to leaders and civilizations that are sold separately. Batteries not included, all rights reserved.
Spain can now form fleets and armadas with mercantilism and received increased gold, faith, and production from trade routes.
That's very cool.
Trade routes between multiple continents further boost these returns.
Very
Cities
cool.
not on Spain's home continent receive increased production towards districts and a free builder when founded.
That is a pretty damn good update for Spain. Like if we really think about it, Spain has been for a long time a bit of a not red herring, redheaded stepchild, kind of just like a kind of civ. They just weren't amazing. And so for Spain to get buffs like this that bring them into a similar limelight as Portugal, and also to give them unique mechanics, that's huge, because not only is the civ stronger, they have more interesting and different playstyles available to them. The ability to form fleets and armadas with mercantilism, that is super early into the game. To put that in perspective, I think you can research mercantilism like 20 to 40 turns before you ever get nationalism or mobilization, and then like it's another 20 or 30 turns before you have mobilization, like in a standard kind of culture game where you don't have like an absurd culture. So you're going to be able to have an extremely strong fleet on a naval map. And even on Pangaea, you could threaten people's shorelines. Now, the extra 3 gold, 2 faith, and 1 production for trade routes, super good, especially if that applies to internal trade routes. Spain is going to be the king of internal trade routes now. And those bonuses getting tripled, so you'll get 9 gold, 6 faith, and 3 production for international trade routes. That puts them, if not quite as good as Portugal, at least in the same sort of ballpark. Especially this is going to open up options for Spain in the late game for international trade with regards to things like the democracy, government, Vissel banking, all those things that give you extra yields on your trade routes. Spain is going to definitely feel like a much more a trade-centric civilization, which is going to incentivize you to build your harbors, your commercial hubs. Not only that, but cities not on your original capital's continent receive 25% production towards districts and a free builder when founded. So they basically get the Ancestral Hall. Is it Ancestral Hall? Yeah, it's Ancestral Hall bonus if they're settling off of their continent. Now, what that means in like a map like Terra or some kind of naval map, if they go tall with Audience Chamber, build up a big core of cities, they still have the option to send out settler tendrils to other continents, which they get the free builder that they wouldn't have got if they had that they would have got if they had went for Ancestral Hall rather than Audience Chamber. So they get that ability anyway, and they can build up those cities faster with a 25% production towards district. This is a huge change, especially if you look at some of the changes to the Merchant Republic government from a month or two ago, where a lot of the diplomatic policy slots were shifted around and some of those abilities were reinforced or made more interesting, especially if you think about the Casa de Contracion, I don't know how to say it. You know, there are so many options for Spain now to really do something cross-continent. The Conquistador looks fairly normal. It's really strong with a religious unit on it. And then the mission, I don't think the mission has much changes. I do like the +1 production, +1 food if it's on a different continent to your capital. And actually, +2 loyalty per turn for cities with a missionary improvement next to their city center and not on your original capital. So the mission does actually look quite a bit stronger. It's going to give you good faith. It's going to give you good science. It's going to give you food and production. Food and production being the really important thing there. It's hard to justify a tile that's like 2 food, 2 faith. right? But if it's like 3 food, 1 production, 2 faith, that's a much better, much more workable tile.
Khmer now provides bonus faith per population and bonus amenities for cities with aqueducts. Their farms provide additional food when adjacent to an aqueduct, and now additional faith when adjacent to a holy site. Jayavarman now grants holy sites a major adjacency bonus to rivers, their usual culture bomb, and food equal to the holy site's adjacency bonus, as well as
This is huge.
additional housing if adjacent to a river.
As China, when
That
you
is
complete
huge. Let's talk about the Khmer's bonuses here. So there's a couple of things that are changing here. I think the Prasat changes as well. So holy sites are granted a major adjacency bonus at rivers. Okay, this is huge because oftentimes with Khmer, you would go for the river goddess, a pantheon, which gives you +2 housing and +2 amenities, if I remember correctly, from holy sites on a river. So you often had to be forced into a position as Khmer to choose between, is my district going to benefit from my pantheon or is it going to have a high adjacency? Now you don't have to make that choice so much because rivers give you that +2 adjacency, which isn't massive, but you could easily get it to +3 or +4 with that baseline +2 of being next to a river. And then they also give you food equal to the adjacency bonus, which means for every 2 adjacency bonus, you can support an extra population in that city. So if you get 4 adjacency bonus, you can support 2 population. And then you put in the 100% adjacency bonus card, you could support 4 population because you need 2 food to support 1 population. And it gives you the housing. So if you can have a +4 adjacency holy site on a river, with the River Goddess Pantheon as Khmer, you can have quite easily, with the right setup and cards, 4 extra housing and population, 8 extra food, 2 amenities, and that's before we even start talking about aqueducts, which give you even more housing, even more amenities, and give you faith for every population that you have now. It's absolutely massive. Farmers providing +2 faith if they're adjacent to an aqueduct. Really, really cool. I like the extra amenity from entertainment on the aqueducts, and I like the extra faith from population. Really, I think reinforces the theme of this being a really tall faith civilization, right? Their job is to generate a ton of faith. Now, what you use that faith on is kind of up to the player. You can use it on religious benefits, or you can use it on tourism benefits, which I think is really cool. It doesn't look like their unique unit has changed much, but the Prasat definitely has. Now, this is a temple replacement, and the temple normally gives you 4 faith, so this is already giving you an extra 2 faith over the temple, which is a nice boost. It is required to purchase apostles. It gives you half a culture point for every population in this city. This is massive. The yield potential of a Khmer Empire now, by focusing on holy sites and aqueducts and farms, is insane. You're going to be able to regenerate a ridiculous amount of culture and faith, which are the exact things you need to go for a tourism victory. And the really, really cool thing here is the Prasat, once flight is researched, it gives you +10 tourism if the city is population 10 or higher, and +20 if the city population is 20 or higher. So this definitely feels like a much taller civ. And 10 population is fairly easy to hit if you're going super wide. 20 population with all of these food and amenities and housing bonuses are super achievable as Khmer now, especially if you get things like River Goddess, perhaps even Feed the World, and things of that nature. And 20 tourism from that, I don't know if that counts as religious tourism, which might make Crystal Red and Tor even more important for the Khmer tourism game. But 20 tourism is a lot. I think it's equivalent to having 5 great works of writing at max output. That's really powerful. Really, really, really powerful. I think a baseline national park with +4 adjacency on all 4 tiles is worth 16 tourism per turn. So this is potentially worth 20 tourism per turn if you can get enough food, which the Khmer will be able to. Very, very cool. I actually don't think this civ really needed too much of a buff, but if this is the buff that we're getting, I'm happy. This is like now, this is no longer just my favorite civ. This is like far and away my favorite civ in the game.
As China, when you complete a world wonder, you now also receive a random eureka and inspiration from that wonder's era. This maintains China's wonder building tendencies regardless of era and whether Qin Shi Huang or Kublai Khan leads them.
Mapuche.
That's really, really cool. That seems like a fairly modest buff to China, who is already a fairly strong civ in my opinion. The +1 build charge is really flexible, so getting extra tourism boosts is nice on two fronts, or extra culture boosts rather, I should say. The culture helps you research things faster, but it actually also helps you defend yourself in a tourism game where someone else is going for tourism, because those boosts do actually count towards generating domestic tourists that will resist external tourism pressures. That's really, really cool. I think that's a pretty modest and interesting buff to China, and it kind of reinforces their wonder building identity.
Civ ability now gives cities with an established governor additional culture, production, and combat experience for all units trained in that city. These numbers are significantly boosted for cities not founded by Mapuche. All cities within 9 tiles of a city with a Mapuche governor gain additional loyalty per turn towards Mapuche. Lautaro's combat bonus now applies against free cities as well as civilizations in a golden age, and civs in a golden age lose even more loyalty when one of their units is defeated by the Mapuche.
Canada's leader.
So, +10 combat strength for defeating an enemy dude. This is really, really cool. I think they changed how loyalty works not too long ago. I want to say it was within the last year. Which means that even if you got a city to 0% loyalty, it wouldn't flip independent unless it had a negative loyalty pressure applied to it, which is going to be hard to do to a civilization in a golden age. Now, the one advantage, the one upside there, is that if you're able to reduce a city's loyalty, it will become less productive. I believe it's when you're at like negative 80 loyalty, the city will basically produce nothing. So if you can get the loyalty of an enemy city down by killing their units, the city will become less productive. And so this is a really great way to actually do damage to the enemy's economy by killing a bunch of units all in one turn. You kill 3 units in a single turn against someone in a golden age, and the city that those units were in is basically useless for 4 or 5 turns, which is really cool. This definitely feels like they're trying to make Mapuche into a more aggressive conquest-based civ, which I like. I like that's really, really cool. The buff to the established governor thing is nice. It's a fairly modest bonus outside of your, or inside of your own empire, 5% culture, 5% production. That's not a huge amount. It is a nice little boost. The 10% experience is quite handy, but this really comes into its own when you start occupying people's cities. That is superb. An extra 15% culture, 15% production, and 30% experience for units. That's really powerful, especially because what you can do with that 30% experience bonus, let's say you conquer someone and then you establish a governor there, you can then, faith purchase or gold purchase or construct a unit and then combine it with some of your previous units, and they should inherit that 30% experience bonus, which means your units will level up very quickly, which will give you more heals and stronger units in general. All cities within 9 tiles of your city gain +4 loyalty turn towards your civilization. I assume that this applies to enemy civilizations, so this is again going to give Mapuche a way to sort of trigger negative loyalty in their enemies. Now, I'm curious if this is a if or and statement. If it's an if statement, that means if there is 1 or 10 cities within range that have a governor, you will just get, +4 loyalty towards Mapuche. If it's an and sort of construction of this ability, that means if you have 3 cities with 3 governors in range of 1 enemy city, they'll get -12 loyalty per turn. That makes that significantly more powerful. The difference between those two, I'm really curious to see how that actually mechanically works. In one of them, it's just a nice help to keep loyalty during conquest. In the second one, it's actually a great way to force loyalty problems onto your neighbors. The Maladon Raider didn't get any changes. I think the Chemamole got a change here. It looks like it's +1 production and 75% of the tiles appeal rather than 50% with a baseline. I think it was like +1 culture, +50% or something like that. Really, really, really cool, but it does require a minimum appeal of breathtaking, which means I think +1 production and +3 culture is going to be the baseline for the Chemamole. +1 production, like honestly, a lot of the bad tile improvements could be fixed by something like this, the Spain and Mapuche treatment, just giving them like +1 production or food. That could fix, like, I want to say like 80% of the tile improvements in the game. Just give them 1 food or 1 production, and that like severely increases the utility and ability for them to actually be workable. So I like this change. I definitely feel like I can see the identity of these civs being reinforced and then made relevant to how players are actually playing the game. A lot of the abilities sort of in the original civs that are now a little bit old, it kind of felt like they had designed the game with mechanics and ideas in mind. They built the civ around that. But what actually turned out is the way that the players play the game, that these abilities were kind of irrelevant because the players were never really incentivized to interact with those systems. And so I think their original approach, up until this patch is what I'm assuming here, I'm making some assumptions here, was to try to just reinforce that design by making things more and more powerful, right? So you saw things like, rather than significantly rework an ability, they would typically just buff it a little bit. So for example, rather than Georgia's identity completely changing or getting reworked or something, they would just take the wall building identity and turn it up even a dial higher, giving them extra construction towards walls, things like that. But now it looks like they're actually more willing to dig into a civ and actually just straight up add extra abilities and just add raw power to them, which I'm a really big fan of. Adding raw power to underpowered civs is a totally valid way to balance the game. But yeah, I can't remember exactly what the Chemable was before, but the +1 production is actually a huge buff to the utility and viability of the Chemable.
Canada's leader ability now provides even more increased yields from mines, camps, lumber mills, and even farms on snow and tundra tiles, making those tiles better than other terrain types for them. Canada's Mounties are now cheaper to build and have additional combat strength as well as an additional national park charge.
We've also made changes to many other
Whoa, okay, so I'm not gonna lie. Canada was already, in my opinion, a pretty strong civilization, in particular for tundra and like national park stuff that you could do. Now, to be fair, you had to get to the late game, which was tough for Canada. But this civ just seems crazy now. Okay, +2 production to all lumber mills and mines, right? In snow, tundra hills, all that stuff. That's crazy. Hang on a minute. It's no tundra, yeah. +2 production to lumber mills and mines, so they're going to have more production, more food. Camps provide +2 food. Farms provide. This civ is just the tundra civ now. I'm curious to see if Russia got a similar treatment. But yeah, this is crazy to me. To see a civ now go from being just like, okay, they can do some unique things on tundra and they're pretty good, to now this civ just wants to live on tundra. They are so good on tundra now, especially with the cheaper tile purchasing, the strategic resource accumulation, and now the Mountie, which was, in my opinion, an already crazy strong unit in that if you had the right setup, you could purchase it for a lot less than a naturalist would cost you, and essentially get a combat unit with a national park for free. Now that unit gives you 2. This civ is insane. You almost want to plan around national parks. You want to have preserves, national parks. You want to have a ridiculous amount of national parks. I feel like Eiffel Tower is now almost mandatory on Canada to be able to get the maximum out of the preserves and the national parks that you're going to be building in a tundra settle. It doesn't look like the ice hockey rink got too many changes, but this civ, with these 2 small changes, as far as I can tell, towards the Mountie and the last Best West, this civ is like a powerhouse now in tundra. Like, you're not even going to want to invade them because you're going to see like this big, juicy, powerful city, and then you take it over and all the yields on it will just collapse. And conversely, if you try to settle the tundra near Canada, you know, they're going to snap that up because they know the second they take that city, it's going to be a lot better and a lot more viable for them.
We've also made changes to many other civilizations, like the much debated Georgia. Look for the complete.
I'm curious, what changes did they actually make to Georgia there? I can't tell anything here. Combat victories provide faith equal to 50% of the combat strength of defeated units, so this encourages Georgia to go to war a little bit to generate faith. That's moderately powerful. I think this could have been 100%, like, and there would have been no problem. I don't think this would be overpowered at 100%. It would be totally. You could set this to 200%, and it would still be totally fine. But I think 100% would be okay. Each envoy you sent, yep, that seems normal. Must have a larger religion. Production towards defensive buildings still strong in Golden Age stuff. When in a Golden Age, the tourism and faith are 100%. It's kind of hard to read that there, but that seems pretty good. This kind of reinforces their identity as a faith-based Golden Age-y kind of civ, which comes with its own benefits. I'd say Georgia are now more interesting to play. I don't know if they're much stronger to play, but they're more interesting to play with these bonuses.
Look for the complete list in our patch notes.
To sum up, we also have 2 new TSL maps, better AI for navies, and 3 new units including a trebuchet. All of which have been directly inspired by your feedback and is free for you to enjoy.
Civ fans, you're the best fans in gaming. Please keep mashing those follow buttons so you never miss out on any news about Sid Meier's Civilization. Because you know we're always over here taking one
more
turn.
I am super excited for this patch. I'm really glad that we're seeing the trebuchet, which is the most requested unit ever, I think, in a Civ game. I like that we're seeing updates to the infantry line. You know what? This is going to be a great patch. I'm hyped for this beyond belief. I cannot wait to play around with the new units. I cannot wait to play around with the new buffed civs. I cannot wait to play around with the new maps. I can't wait to play around with... God, there's so much going on. Like, I haven't even explored the full depths of this new Frontier Pass thing, and we're going to be getting even more. So I expect that I will have a very busy year ahead of me trying to, like, figure out all these cool new strategies. That's going to be it from me. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!